This film covers some of the highlights of the 2005 QRA British Quad Enduro Championship Series, which this year was sponsored by PAR Home. I'm afraid we're not going to see them all. We start with round 3. This was at Long Compton, and the event was organised by the Cotswold Enduro Club. And of course the series planned out and organised very carefully by Tony Nash. The 2 earlier rounds were both held in Devon. Round 1 was at Musbury near Axminster. Today the race here at Long Compton over 3 hours, and the course fairly open, but it would be quite bumpy in places. The Davis brothers got off to a good start. Andrew on the Kawasaki took the whole shot, and brother Simon in second place. Andrew held on to the lead for most of the first lap, but Paul Winrow had moved up into second place. And coming in to finish lap 1, Paul Winrow was now out in front. And Andrew in second place. He had a good race for about 2.5 hours, and then he had problems with the quad. I think the chain came off and it couldn't be fixed, so that was the end of the day for him. There were several off-camber sections, and Steve Dommett got it all wrong on one of these. Some of the results now are number 54, Andy Downs, finished in 5th place overall, and he did 21 laps of the course. He had also finished 5th in round 1 of the series. Also on 21 laps, but finishing 2 minutes ahead of Andy, was Simon Davis in 4th place. He'd had good results in the earlier rounds, a 4th and a 2nd. He was sponsored by Ace ATV. In 3rd place here at Long Compton was David Baldwin from Bishop Auckland. He was riding a Yamaha YFZ 450. He'd finished runner-up in the first round of the series and 6th in round 2. David completed 21 laps of the course, and so did the runner-up, number 63, Jason Macbeth from Reading, but Jason finished nearly 5 minutes ahead of David. This was a good result for the Honda rider because he'd failed to finish in round 1 of the series. He was sponsored by Team KIK, HM Plant and Honda Racing. Paul Winrow had won the first 2 rounds in the series, and he was hoping to make it 3 in a row. Paul took up the lead towards the end of lap 1, and no one came anywhere near him then. Sponsored by HM Plant and Honda Racing, and he was riding a Honda TRX 450R. He really was in a class of his own today, and he was the only rider to do 22 laps of the course. Of course, he was the 2004 QRA Enduro champion. So after 3 rounds in the series, it was 3 wins in a row for Paul Winrow, but there was a price to pay for winning here at Long Compton. Paul had got the blisters to prove it.
Hard work around here, wasn't it?
It's 3 hours, as you say. It's a short track. It's very rough. It's very, very demanding, but for everybody.
Yeah. Well done.
Cheers, Frank.
Now we go on to round 5 of the series. The venue is Selattyn near Oswestry, and this event organised by the Cotswold Enduro Club again. The riders had been warned it was slippery in places. It was Michael Wrighton who got the whole shot, Andy Miller in second place, Simon Davis third, and Paul Winrow fourth. Later on the first lap, I saw part of Michael Wrighton's quad again, but he was still going though. Ideal conditions here at Selattyn. It had rained earlier on in the week, so there was no dust. Parts of the course were quite bumpy in places. Matt James riding the Yamaha Kodiak. He won the 4x4 class, and he'd also won round 4 and round 3 in that section. There were some stream crossings here at Selattyn, but the water not too deep. And Chris Jones just checking the temperature. It was quite warm. The trickiest part of the going was down through the wooded section, and it was single file traffic here. Several riders did 10 laps in the 2.5 hours, and it was Andrew Davis who finished in 5th place overall. Andrew desperately needed the points. He'd failed to finish at Long Compton and hadn't scored many points in round 4. Michael Wrighton was the leader for most of the first lap, and then he went and modified the bike. He still had a good ride though, did 10 laps of the course and finished in 4th place overall. It was a close finish between him and Andrew Davis, only 7 seconds in it. 3 riders completed 11 laps of the course, and it was number 44, David Baldwin, who finished in 3rd place overall. David going well in the series. He had taken the Premier at round 4. Sponsored by ATV World and riding a Yamaha YFZ 450. In 2nd place today, number 63, the Honda rider Jason Macbeth. After a very poor start at the beginning of the season, he'd finished runner-up in the last 3 rounds. It was a very close finish today though. Jason only 6 seconds ahead of David Baldwin. Paul Winrow had won the first 3 rounds in the series, but he'd finished 3rd at round 4, so he was hoping for better things today. On lap 2 he took up the lead, and quite soon he was opening up a big lead on the rest of the field. He just seemed to glide over the very bumpy sections of the course. He finished his 11 laps in 2 hours and 41 minutes and finished nearly 6 minutes ahead of Jason Macbeth.
You do 2 more hours? Yeah. That's 2 more hours to you as well.
Another Premier for Paul Winrow.